Thank you. Appreciate that, Scott. Thank you all for coming. I know we have, I looked at the list of folks who are, can you all hear me pretty well? We have 15 CEOs, 14 chief investment officers, 5 executive vice presidents, 15 presidents, and advisors who represent about $70 billion in assets in this room today. So very happy to be here in front of this audience. We also have folks, where's my man Marquay, all the way from Dallas. We have a whole bunch of folks from California, probably a dozen or so. It includes Rob Bartenstein, Tim Oden, guys like that. Fred Hill from Baltimore, he's here. Holly Crockett from Richmond. Just all across the country, the folks from Ameriprise who came from all over. So we really appreciate you guys coming. It's also going to be a great day. The panels are terrific. The transition panel, we have CEOs, we've got recruiters, we've got attorneys there. You're going to hear in a keynote from the top attorney in the United States as far as protocol goes, so that should be terrific. We have a future of investing panel where we have a millennial expert, Bitcoin expert, 2 socially responsible fund managers, and you can guess the rest. It's really going to be a terrific event. And then investing in changing times, where we have a bunch of fund managers. That's really going to be a practice management type of thing for you guys, where you can talk about how to work with clients and ask people like Louis Navalier and these fund managers, how they do it, especially given the way the markets are today. I think it's going to be a super thing. Now, I don't have a mic. I like to walk around, so I'm really not going to be able to today. But for me, just want to brag for a second. We have our reporters, Mason and Jed. You want to just raise your hands over here? These are the best guys. Please give them a round of applause. These are the best guys in the business, for sure. So they won a Neal Award. And one of the things we talk about with ADVISORHUB is that we get picked up in the press all the time. That they write original stories, get picked up in the New York Times, the New York Post, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, everywhere, because they are on your behalf out there breaking news. They certainly don't want me to say that they're advocates for financial advisors, but they're advocates for the truth. And I think our entire production is advocacy for financial advisors. They also won a Neal Award, which is the most prestigious award for journalism there is. This is our audience. It would be a heck of a branch if you had it as a branch manager. As a former branch manager, I think that all the time. Terrific group. We tend to the high end of advisors, but there are about 700,000 people with a license. About 200,000 of those we would collectively consider to be producers. And we have about 188,000 that read us on a regular basis. So, and you guys are the best of the best. So again, it's an honor to be here and work with you all. I'm going to have to, first of all, I'm much better looking than the picture. I'm sure you've all realized that. My talks are usually very funny. There's a lot of homey sort of, things I talk about from my time as an advisor, my time as a manager. I'm just not going to have time for that today, because my job is not really to sort of entertain so much as it is I want to put today in context for you. Okay, I want to make sure that we have an understanding of where we're going, because we have folks from 3 or 4 very different perspectives, senior leaders in the business that are going to give you from their seats where they think it's going. You've got J.P. Morgan, this boutique firm that's with a national presence that's fantastic. You've got Ameriprise, which has a sort of one of the newer models out there where they sort of do multiple channels. And you've got Tim Oden, who runs more billion-dollar advisors than anybody with Schwab's platform. So I'm very interested to hear what they have to say from where they sit. From where I sit, I think it's important to have context and contextual relevance. So I'm going to talk briefly about the past. I know some of you don't want to relive it, but we should talk about it, how we got here. I'm going to statistically show you what advisors look like today, what our industry is like. Maybe some surprises there. And then I want to talk about some of the challenges, some of the self-inflicted wounds we as an industry have presented ourselves, and then where I think the future is. But normally this is an hour, and we're going to do it in about 20 minutes. I'm going to run through it. So, history. We've all been there. There was something I like to call the perfect storm back in 2008, 2010. I'm sure we remember. Wirehouses collapsed. They closed. We had, at the same time that these sort of terrible things were going in the marketplace and were happening to our firms, technology came. And technology created the opportunity to have an independent movement, which really wasn't there. And you can't ignore independence. I get a little frustrated when firms do, because they sort of initially didn't want to get involved in a character debate with independent firms. But you need to recognize that this thing has happened and that there is sort of this change afoot. When I had my desk, my first phone at my desk at Legg Mason was called a Watts line. Does anybody remember that? The phone was $10,000. When I started my first RIA, my phone was free. It came with the internet. And you can call anyone anywhere. Didn't cost anything. So technology really came, but it's a dual-edged sword. I think we're concerned about where this might go, especially when you look at where millennials are today. We're going to talk about that briefly. But the idea that there's a collapse on one side, technology sort of catches up to where now you can actually work out of you don't have a diminution in services if you're working outside of a large firm. And then you led to independence. Today, what I see, and I think what we're going to hear from here today, is the rise of the new nationals. It's new firms that are taking the place of some of the old leaders, and they need to step up and speak up for themselves, and that's another slide. This is sort of the irrefutable practical point of where advisors are moving. They're voting with their feet. They are going to the best platform in their point of view. And independence is the only segment that's growing in a traditional way. You can see the numbers of where they are. We all know that a lot of firms hire a bunch of trainees and label them advisors, so their headcount stuff doesn't look as bad. This is just a facts, so we can't ignore facts. We're not here to do that. So here's where the industry is today. I think this is an interesting slide. The median advisor, over 106 million. When I started in this business, I had no idea what my assets were. No one ever asked. It was just, what is your production? We had no idea. Some of the issues you're going to find, revenue looks good, but revenue is fee dependent, although there's a smaller number of folks in fee accounts. So we're going to talk about that too. On the negative side, commissions are declining. Look, I've been in the business for 30 years. I've never seen commissions go up. Does anybody remember 8% mutual funds? Am I too old? Okay, 8%, that's what I remember. This is interesting because it speaks to culture and character. And I think that people have some preconceived notions about financial advisors, but this is the kind of stuff that AdvisorHub likes to ask everybody. So this was actually compiled by the same folks who do the working with us. The NBC News, Wall Street Journal, presidential election polls. So we have very statistically accurate information. People think that, hey, everybody's got a fast car, they're getting divorced, they're doing all this stuff. The fact is, you'd be better off connecting with an advisor, talking about some sort of charitable events that they're working on or things that they're interested in than you would be if you were to push a fast car. I like fast cars myself, but at the end of the day, this is what advisors look like, not what you read in the paper, and I think it's important to keep it in mind. This is for you guys just to see, taken from the statistics, and there should not be a lot of surprises here. What's a low growth practice? What's a high growth practice? So again, look at the snapshot of our world today and of you today. Low growth advisors have fewer fees. They don't do as much discretion. Fewer households. It's Gen X, it's really millennials that we're talking about here. The connectivity with millennials is almost non-existent. And the good ones are on a team. So if you want to figure out, what am I doing right, what am I doing wrong? If you're lowering your commissions, if you're not on a team, if you're not doing discretion, things like that, you're probably in a low growth practice. Commission decline, this just frustrates me to no end. We are hurting ourselves out there when we compete. Interestingly, of course, it's probably not a surprise to everybody, but our existing accounts, we tend not to discount. We just discount when we're trying to get new business. But of course, in the aggregate, it hurts us. So commissions are coming down because we're lowering them. You have to value what you do, in my opinion. These are just perceptions of where people are going. So traditional new national firms are the firms that are here today, the JP Morgan, Schwab, Ameriprise. It also includes LPL, and of course this is my term. Brexit is also my term, so don't worry too much about that. But new national firms are the firms that are sort of the leadership of the future. These are the folks that are sort of going to be making things happen as we go forward. So your perception is that the best compensation is going to be in the RIA world. again, how they're going to fare financially. I think this is the same thing. Best culture, interestingly, is in the new national firms, because those are a little more traditional. Typically, they have managers and offices and things like that, and that's how you're viewing it. Most accessible management, again, not a surprise, the new nationals. There's a lot there. The new nationals kind of rank in a lot of these categories other than compensation rather than RIAs. These are the things we talk about all the time. I find these to be self-inflicted wounds. We're an industry that cannot help these days but hurt ourselves. The DOL was completely a tragedy of our own making, the way we responded to it. We didn't respond collectively. We didn't show leadership. And as a result, somebody did something, somebody did another, and then everyone's having to sort of figure it out as we go. That's not good for clients, and it's not good for us. Brexit, this is my opinion. It's completely misguided. I understand why you would do it. And Brexit is the protocol exit strategy. I just feel like you're creating conflicts, that you're chilling innovation. Capitalism, and everyone in this room to one degree or another is a capitalist, you know, it means you have to allow capital and assets to flow where they're best served. Let people make their own decisions. I mean, we wrote an article, and I'm missing I don't want to misquote the person, but we had one of the very, very senior people at Merrill who had now retired wrote in response to the article on this, whatever happened to just making your firm a good place to work so nobody wanted to leave? And, you know, yeah, what about investing in the future, investing in advisors and all that sort of thing? So I think this creates a lot of trouble where it doesn't have to be. And I do think that it has a chilling effect on innovation, which is the main issue. I think firms, as I said in the beginning, need to take the independent, you know, movement seriously. And what I mean by that is make the changes in your firm that are going to make sense. Make the changes in your firm that people are looking for. Make it a great place to be. There's always going to be a great place for wirehouses, in my opinion. I think they're good for a lot of things and for a lot of advisors. But I think this, you're ignoring and putting off innovation, and you really shouldn't. The emperor has no clothes. Well, a good market, like we've had for the last 10 years, covers up an awful lot of mistakes. You know, everybody's a genius when the market goes up. When the market goes down, all of a sudden, mistakes come up. And the folks that didn't value the advisor are going to have real problems when that happens. So advisors have, you know, there was a time when no one wanted to work with advisors. We all wanted trading desks because they can make, you know, $40 million in a half hour. Okay. But advisors have a good, steady fee business. If you didn't take care of that, if you masked the massive exodus from your firm, if you did things that you shouldn't have done to piss off advisors and make them go, the chickens are going to come home to roost when the markets go down. So I'm waiting to see what that result is going to be. But this is not you know, brilliant on my part, by the way. This happens every time the market goes down. We see who's got no clothes. Okay, predictions for the future. This is sort of where I feel the market is going and where our business is headed, based on, you know, where I sit, where I kind of get to hear everything, which is good. Let's just keep in mind that the perfect storm has really, really impacted us. That's why we looked at the past first, okay? So it's had a genuine impact on where we are and where we're going to be in the future. RIA channels are going to continue to grow. Again, in the last year, it was the only channel that grew at any pace. Wires, I think, will consolidate at some point. Consolidation is sort of a key theme because I think RIAs will have to consolidate as well for pricing pressure and things like that. They're going to need to get together and sort of make sure that they can scale a little bit in order to accommodate what advisors really want. I think this model proliferation, where there's 18 million models, is also going to sort of slow because of that scaling that needs to happen. Something you're seeing already, these largest breakaway indies, these billion-dollar teams, you see those folks, I'm getting the yellow card already, you see those folks now leaving the firms that they're at and starting their own. Why? Because they can. If I'm a billion-dollar producer and I have 12 people on my team, it's very easy to me to go pure RIA. I don't need the aggregator firm to help me, you know, sort of get there. So you're going to see that happening. I think the smart aggregator firms are going to create situations where they allow the billion-dollar team to go on their own, but at the same time keep some connectivity to the home port. I think custodians are going to face pricing pressure. I think trades are going to zero at some point. They can argue that with me, but that's what's going to happen. Commoditization cuts both ways. It is something that, as things become commoditized, we have to watch out that our investing stuff does not become commoditized, right? That our ability to invest, and if we're giving advice and that's what we're selling, we have to really be proud of that and push it. Real estate issues are starting to affect the large wirehouses less and less. Even though they have less people in their branches, they're coming around to it. And I think if they push to the ultra-high net worth side, they're going to be a great choice for a lot of people. If you ask me, and this gets controversial too, I think they'd like to go to a European model. I think you see that when advisors retire. They bring in the younger advisor, they pay them less, they sign these onerous contracts where they're sort of trapped in the firm. It's not a bad thing to have a European model. They do it in Europe. Europeans are nice. I like to visit there. But those are folks who didn't build the business, right? That's not the entrepreneur who started. This is the guy who's coming in. But I do see a tendency to want to move towards that model when they get there. Today, this is the trend, the birth of the new national. These firms need to step up and take a leadership role. I do harangue them on a regular basis. I'm actually this way in person, as well. You look at the fact that Ed Jones has the most advisors. Totally different model. Again, you talk to Tim Owen about what Schwab is doing and what's going on at JP Morgan and Ameriprise, all good stuff. Some of the fastest growing and largest firms have very different models and partnership structures than the traditional. And that's just the way it is. I just hope that these guys actually do step up and start speaking on our behalf, or at least get together, sit down with the wires so we speak as one voice. You guys should not be thought of as children. You are the leaders of our industry now. Takeaways. This is just from the slides before. The growth strategy, you need to open new accounts every year. We're just not doing a good job of it. Fee clients, that's a great business, but only 46% of our clients, they represent 65% of our revenue, are fee clients, okay? Generation X, I don't know why my staff did that. That's actually my generation. We mean millennials. Does anybody want to take a quick guess at what our growth as an industry is in servicing millennial accounts in the past 3 years? 0% growth, nothing. That's fucking crazy. Don't discount. Ever. You're hurting us. You're hurting everybody. You're hurting your friends. Don't you want to stay friends with people? Okay, the industry takeaways. RIA is a real phenomenon, and you should go back to your firms and say, please take this seriously. Here are the things that I like about independent. I don't want to go independent. I love my office, but we need to do this stuff. DOL and Brexit, this is our fault, and I blame senior leadership, so you're all to blame. You should get together, and you guys should have made and unfortunately it is all guys, should have made an effort here to do something. You can't block innovation. If we as an industry block innovation, we are dead. We are just never going to grow. And the whole idea of, I'm worried about competition, but you block innovation, you should embrace innovation. It's crazy. Best platform should win. Look at the culture slide that we had before. Money isn't everything for financial advisors, no matter what. New nationals, the emperors have no clothes. We talked about that. I'm rushing because I'm getting now the red slide. And it's time for these folks to step up, the new nationals.